Hello, everybody, and welcome to Real Mushrooms for Pets, a live Q&A for March. I can't believe it's already March.
It's almost over. March is almost over.
Nice to see you, Doc Rob, and hey, and congratulations! You are finished with the first leg of your book tour, which was mostly in all over Virginia. It sounds like it was fantastic. Such great feedback. Yeah,
it was a really good time, and it was really nice to be in personal contact with so many pet parents and answer their questions. And and there's a number of pet parents in each of the 3 locations I was at that know me from these Q&As. So yes. It's good to know we're getting it out there and helping pet parents with their problems with their pet parents.
No, it was great. It was really wonderful to see the excitement, and I'm hearing from people that, oh my gosh, I saw Rob at the Miss Kibbles event, or at Amanda's event at Nautical Dog, or at Kim's event at Natural Pet Essentials. And thanks to them for hosting you. There's such a Virginia Strong. They're a great group of pet retailers, and we're very grateful. And I just today I was just Dr. Judy Morgan posted a wonderful 5-minute review of your book. Oh my goodness. So talk about a really nice, I have so much respect for her. And she went through it chapter by chapter and just really she talked about that. She's preaching to the choir with, your book is amazing, Rob. And so, but to get that kind of, not only did she write a testimonial on your book that's on, I believe, on the back cover of your book, she read that testimonial and then additionally.
Yeah, I sent her the manuscript before the book was even published, and she really liked it. And I'm planning some book signings in Oregon and California too. Just trying to find the time to do that is really challenging with our busy schedule.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's move on to our topic for today, which is green goodness. Do pets need veggies? So what say you, Doc Rob?
Well, the title for today kind of gives me a little chuckle because it kind of sounds like a salad dressing, doesn't it?
Green goodness, yes.
It does.
I'll pour it on my dog and eat them. No, I'm joking.
But pets do need veggies. But if you ask, a nutritionist, they'll say, no, there's no nutritional need for veggies. And this is because they look at the macronutrients, the protein and the fat, the carbohydrates, and that's really all they really care about. And they don't realize that veggies pack an incredible punch of all of these health-promoting little molecules, just like we talk about the beta glucans that are in our mushrooms. Plants have these terpenes and all these other ingredients, including ergothioneine. Had to get that mentioned. and plus great fiber, and they can even contain soil bacteria, which can promote healthy growth in the microbiome. And studies show that eating vegetables does promote positive microbiome balances. And so I think that veggies are very important. And I think that that's a big flaw in how the conventionals look at diets for pets, is saying that veggies, there's no need for veggies at all.
Yeah. And, it takes me back to like when I first started out raw feeding, and, when you're looking at the biologically appropriate feeding, pets in the wild, they kill their prey and they get that protein, but they also get what's the stomach content of that squirrel or that that rodent or whatever that was eating vegetables,
and the digestive enzymes.
It's almost like it's almost like it's a fermented vegetable.
Yes, it's a great.
So it just makes sense that that of course vegetables are going to be an important part. What do you think? Because there's a big. I'm just curious. I don't want to put you on the spot, but there's
the that's the idea tonight.
The fermented veggies. I like green juju, for instance.
Sure.
Coming out of Gussie's gut, and I have Scruffy on the fermented veggies, and she's doing very well. Do you think that they're better. Like I imagine just getting the veggies in is a good start, but would you be inclined? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the value of the probiotics, the value of the enzymes, the value of what we call the postbiotics, which are the secondary metabolites that result from fermentation, plus the veggies themselves, all have incredible health benefits. And many of that has been proven through epidemiological studies. Probably one of the original fermented veggies that we know about is kimchi. Which does promote health. So if the animal will eat it, and I think that some of the companies that are drying them, makes them more palatable, and you don't need very much of them.
Right.
To add to a food. And I was going to mention that for those pet parents who would like to feed better, but they're not in a position to, and they still have to feed the kibble on a daily basis, that I think that it's very good to add veggies to their kibble. And the veggies don't really contribute an awful lot of protein. They don't contribute an awful lot of carbohydrates. They're mostly fiber and all the good plant molecules that we're talking about. Yeah. In many cases, I would use feeding veggies also as a way of getting the animal fuller without getting as many calories. So we could, we maybe take away some of the kibble and add some veggies, which helps them to feel full. And for people who eat healthy, and but still aren't able to provide, a better quality meal for their pets, they can also take the leftover veggies from their meals, if they're not laden with excessive amounts of carbohydrates or nutritional ingredients that they don't want their pet to get or their pet's sensitive to, and they can use that to amplify and improve the value of their kibble.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. As you were talking about for weight loss, I remember when almost 2 decades ago, I adopted a dog who was overweight, needed to lose some pounds, and we used the green bean diet, unsalted canned green beans, just filling in for,
Right.
I was raw feeding back then, but I would, I was, the green beans and she, we got her down to normal weight and she loved them, know.
Yeah, the green beans, the canned green beans are actually quite tasty.
Yeah.
They have almost like a savory or meaty kind of a taste. Yeah. And basically I would inform people to just pull pull a certain amount, depends how much the animal's being fed, of course, maybe looking at 10% or 15% of the total amount, and then just pull that much kibble out and substitute that with the green beans. You don't want to take too much out because you want them to be sure they want to get their nutrients as well.
And we've got some questions up. So we have an asparagus question. So Kathy gave her dog steamed asparagus tonight, or she ate steamed asparagus and gave some of the top sticker Springer. Hope that was okay. No seasoning. I wonder if animals have the same, enzyme that makes their urine smell different? Because I know, like with humans, some people get the funny smelling urine and some don't.
I'm going to assign that test. I'm going to assign that test to you, Joni. I want you to feed Scruffy some asparagus, and then every time she goes to pee, I want you to smell it.
My nose in the grass and see.
Ollie loves asparagus, by the way, and usually what I'll do is I'll cut the bottoms off, which are not that tasty, and he just stands there and I just feed them to him. He really likes raw veggies a lot. But I haven't smelled his urine, so I will do that. I will task myself to that.
There you go.
Yeah.
And A. Jenkins is saying, my dogs get veggies, but how do I get green veggies into my cats? That's a
right. Well, that may be a challenge, and that's where maybe looking at some freeze-dried veggies that you might get, for instance, with Green Juju, let's say, which is a great brand, by the way. Might be a way to do it. And then with cats, the secret to getting anything new into them, if you even can, is to start with just a pinch, and let them kind of get used to that taste, and then 2 pinches, and slowly build it up. And there are some veggies that are probably more acceptable to cats, such as squash, and particularly looking at maybe summer squash or zucchini. There are some veggies. I bet, asparagus might even be something that a cat would like. I think when you start getting into the bitter and sour, they may not be as enthusiastic,
Yeah, I'm just having a mental image of a cat eating asparagus. It's like,
well, my
urine.
Yeah, my cats eat everything. They're and that's because we started them out when they're very young, so they imprinted on everything. And then they're even eating cantaloupe, and they're so aggressive at it that if we leave stuff out, forget it. They'll either tear open the package and eat it themselves, or they'll push it over the floor so Ollie can tear it apart for them, and then they'll eat whatever he left, whatever he leaves. Yeah, he's been gaining some weight since we got the cats in the house.
Okay, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we move into some questions? Oh, Rob, Dr. Rob, we need your disclaimer.
Oh, yes. So I want to be certain. I really want to help you with your pet's problems tonight, and I'll give you the best answers I can. But you have to realize that I don't know enough about your pets. We don't have a doctor-patient relationship. So consider the information I'm giving as being educational information. And if you really need some medical advice, I would suggest finding a local holistic veterinarian, which you can find through the AHVMA website for more direct medical advice. But I'll do my best, as I always do.
You do. You always do. And I want to move to the, we'll get to the one in the chat after this one. Which vegetables should be cooked before feeding to dogs? That's a great question, actually.
I don't think there's any problem with cooking all the veggies, and we do want to make the veggies, palatable to have, and it's not like meat or more delicate things, where we are worried about cooking and destroying some nutrients in there. My suggestion is with veggies, though, is to puree them, or chop them super, super fine, because most dogs are not going to want to bite down on celery, let's say. But if you chop it up finely, or if you juice it, or if you puree it, I guess would give you everything, and it would be a better way to do it. I don't think it matters either way. If the dog will accept it uncooked, feed it. It's less work.
And that takes me back to I remember watching an Inside Scoop with Kieran and Rodney where they were talking about broccoli and how it's more nutritious if you chop the broccoli up really fine. The sulforaphane is more bioavailable. And
also I read a study where they found that actually the steamed broccoli, lightly steamed broccoli, has more of the sulforaphane, which is the magic juice in broccoli, than raw broccoli.
Interesting.
Same thing, I think. Chewing kind of releases it. I think light steaming releases it too. So although we're so many people are so invested in this raw feeding concept, it doesn't always have to have everything be raw.
Right. And I've always learned that in the case of vegetables, just cooking makes them more digestible for dogs. But
it does.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to go to Bess's. Please talk for a moment about animals with high liver enzymes and what veggies to bring it down. I'm so scared. So it sounds like she's going through something and she's got a dog with high liver enzymes. Would you go with veggie or maybe something like?
I think if the enzymes are so high that you're frightened, I would definitely look at adding a supplement, such as milk thistle, silymarin, that sort of stuff, to the mix. Some people use the SAMe, which I think is a very expensive way to get there. You don't really need that. I think milk thistle is more than sufficient. There's other nutraceuticals that can also be used. But we know that, for instance, like artichokes, are known to be good for the liver. Dandelion, if you have access to dandelion root, which is not that common to find. Dandelion leaf is more for the kidneys. Burdock root, which may be available in many Asian stores. We have it growing wild all around here. Burdock root is very good for the liver. So, I think in general, fresh foods are good for the liver, but not necessarily in a way that they're going to work on a liver that has some disease issues like elevated enzymes. So I would definitely look to the silymarin as well. And there's other things that I think are very liver friendly. Squash, for instance, and many of the more fibrous vegetables. Also, the fiber helps to feed the microbiome, and there's so much going on in the bowel that then goes to the liver. And so if the bowel is better invested with probiotics, microbiome works better, then when it goes to the liver has less work to do as well.
What about beets for the liver?
Oh, sorry. Yes, beets are good. Red beets, beets, beet, and beet leaf. The beet tops as well also can be quite good. So I think veggies are a good thing to add, but definitely if you've got those high enzymes, you need to use something a bit stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Sherry's asking anything I can do for my kitty who just turned 15 and was diagnosed with GI lymphoma. So sorry about that, Sherry.
Well, that is a very difficult condition. And oftentimes we see them losing weight. And hopefully you're seeking the advice of a veterinarian as well, whoever helped you diagnose that. And even though 15 seems like old for a cat, it's really not super old. And some of the conventional treatments for cats with GI lymphoma, if it's not an aggressive form of GI lymphoma, are not as scary in terms of the chemotherapy. For instance, if we were talking about treating a dog with that, we use something called chlorambucil, and we combine that with low-dose prednisone. We don't like the drugs, but it's a serious disease. Certainly, getting the conventional aspect aside, I think mushrooms have historically always been very have been used have been used when we have these kinds of problems. And so I would look to start getting your kitty cat on some mushroom extract. Problem with the GI lymphoma is sometimes because of some discomfort in the bowel, it can also affect their appetite, which may make them more reluctant to try something new, even if it's a tasty mushroom extract like lion's mane, which might be a good choice here, or cordyceps. And that may be a situation where combining the two, going with the conventional treatment to help downsize the aggressiveness of the disease and improve appetite, and then supporting the cat with the mushroom, following up with the mushroom, can be very good. And I will say fish oil is good for so many things, and especially in this case, it would be very helpful. But again, it's about whether or not how accepting your cat will be of anything new, and that's always the challenge when we're treating cats.
Yeah, and speaking of cats, I'm just popping up. Chris says my cat eats almost anything sprinkled with turkey tail mushrooms.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, okay. So very interesting. Wow. So
yeah.
It's a surprising one, but it also is a prompt to tell people, if anyone out there doesn't know about our new product called Functional Feline, which is a powdered product for cats. And I'm amazed at how much cats are eating this, Rob. Like, you have found the magic formula, because we're getting very little feedback. Yeah, you deserve that. Yeah. We're getting very little feedback about, my cat won't eat it. For the most part, it's like my cat just can't wait for it.
And there's 7 mushrooms in there, including the lion's mane and cordyceps, as well as active probiotic culture. So I think it could also be a good way to start, to take a cat who has something like GI lymphoma and get something new in them that they're able to accept, which will have some benefit, and then maybe layering on some lion's mane or cordyceps later on that might be more of a therapeutically higher dosage.
Yeah, the lion's mane is mild tasting, so you might be able to slide it in there without any trouble. And on that note, we should also announce to anyone that's on the call today, we have a discount. So every month we offer a 25% discount site-wide. So the code is Veggies25, and this is going to go until March 31st. So I encourage you all to either write it down or take a screenshot of that. So if you want to buy that Functional Feline or lion's mane or some hot chocolate for yourself or whatever, it's a good, you can take advantage of this 25% off. So what now I see Barbara's, can dogs be, that's a great question. Can dogs be okay on a vegan diet?
They can. They can. I don't recommend it personally. I think from a philosophical and historical standpoint, dogs really are omnivores. They're not necessarily strict carnivores, and that allows them to be on a vegan diet. But it takes a lot of effort to make sure that they're getting everything they need. There are some important nutrients that are generally only available through animal things such as B12. But there are some companies that do make some supplements that you can add that to it. And I think there's even a company that makes a B12 that is vegan sourced. But there's a really good book out written by Diana Lavadour called The Plant Powered Dog. And if you really want to do a vegan diet for your dog, I would suggest using that because she really lays it out very clearly. She gives recipes, and because the last thing we want to do, vegan diets could be good, but last thing we want to do is give them something that's nutritionally insufficient.
Yeah, and yeah, it's good. It's good to hear you say that. I can't imagine, just from a philosophical standpoint.
But there's some people
around. But
yeah.
Do I remember correctly? There's actually a study, like in that book she referred to. There's there have been studies around it. So
I understand because oftentimes people who are vegans, they're vegans because they don't want to cause any harm to animals, and I get that. I think that's a very lovely attitude, and I support it totally. And so, why would they want to not have anything animal wise and then feed their dog something like that? So I get it. And I think it's worth, and this book really lays it out. It's a great book. It's available on Amazon. And she co-wrote it with Dr. Jean Dodds, who is one of the experts in our field. I worship at her feet.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. And you did a podcast with her too.
I did, yeah, way back when. Well, because we also talked about the fact that mushrooms, edible mushrooms are really the quintessential food for
high in protein. Yeah.
High in protein, high in fiber, low in carbs, low in fat. So mushrooms could be a very good meat substitute to provide that protein,
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question, and thanks. Great answer,
Sure.
Rob. I've been. Let's see. Oh, so Barbara says my 6-month-old foster kitten has megaesophagus. Are there mushrooms which may benefit him? Oh, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one. I'm sorry, and so young too.
That's a young cat too. Yeah.
It's an autoimmune type of disease, and it's not easily treated in any way, shape, or form. We've tried using acupuncture and laser, and I think they can contribute, especially in the early stages of it. And there can be some Chinese herbs. But generally, we use a drug, and drug doesn't have many side effects, but it's not all that effective either. It's also used. It's the same drug that's used in humans for myasthenia gravis, which is another autoimmune disease. If you were to try to use a mushroom for this condition, I would suggest. The mushroom that I always suggest for autoimmune is probably could be a difficult mushroom to get into the kitty, which is the reishi mushroom. Yeah. But I would say that if that's not possible, I would look to the lion's mane because of the history that lion's mane has for supporting the immune system of the bowel, and really the esophagus is a part of the bowel, and it does have its own immune system associated with it. So that's where I would go with that.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think on our last live or the one before it, somebody else had a cat with megaesophagus, and we both mentioned what's megacolon?
Megacolon, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's the other end.
Yes. Okay. Forgive me. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like but I've not heard of megaesophagus in a cat. I know with dogs.
I've seen dogs.
You put the dogs in there's like an eating stand.
Well, that's one reason why we recommend feeding them, elevated. And oftentimes one of the strategies with a dog is to make the food into like a meatball, and then, kind of feed them this way. So it kind of gravity helps, because that's the problem with megaesophagus. The muscles no longer will help to move the digestive from the mouth to the stomach for for digestion. So that's a big problem.
Yeah, I remember when I was in vet practice, we actually had, it was like a high chair. You would put the dog in so that they were like,
oh, that's cool.
Right. Yeah, it's and it helped with the megaesophagus. Well, they were able to eat at least. Yeah. Bindi Boxer is asking, do you have any discounts available on your site, Rob?
We always have discounts on my site, Bindi. The best way to get them, though, is to sign up for our newsletter. And we send out an email campaign every week on a different topic. This week, our email campaign is about seasonal allergies. We suggest products, and then we also offer a discount as well. Yeah. So, and I also wanted to say that I'm starting to begin my own live online platform. And if you have any interest, you can learn more about that on the landing page of my website, which would be wellpetdispensary.com, just as it sounds.
Yeah. And Britta, if you could drop that. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Britta. And by the way, there's a news flash from, so Britta is our amazing assistant to the pet and practitioner department. She's also like Oz behind the scenes, dropping the questions and helping us out on the StreamYard. But she has an update on asparagus, urine, and dogs. She says she gave her own dog Enzo. She gave asparagus to, and it's not like there was that. Oh. Yeah. So dogs also have that asparagus urine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So there we go. That's like if that's the only.
And it works.
And learn something.
It's interesting how that works, because apparently in the Asian population they have that enzyme. My daughter is Asian, and so she doesn't have that reaction to the asparagus.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. So the next question: is it okay to have your dogs drink reverse osmosis water? Do we need to add minerals to the water for them? I've actually seen this conversation on social media lately. Yeah.
Well, I think that's certainly not a bad thing to do. Remember, they're also going to get a lot of minerals in their food. So if they're eating a healthy, fresh, wholesome diet, it may be sufficient. But I know my wife does that. She has this little, trace mineral thing, and she gets the bottles of clean water and then puts the drops in, versus, buying, one of these brands like Smart Water that already have the electrolytes added. So I don't think it's a bad thing to do. I'm not sure how essential that is, though, if they're eating good food, fresh food.
Yeah, no, that's true. I believe, I might be wrong, but I think it was Rita Hogan that posted. She made a post about that. Like, if you're doing reverse osmosis, like, being careful with your water. If you remove stuff, realize that you might be removing like important minerals as well, and be aware of that. But I think you're right, though. Like, there's going to be minerals in the food. Like, it's all about balance. And
it is.
Yeah. SR is saying, if allergic to turkey tail, would my dog be allergic to all mushrooms? She has mast cell, and I know mushrooms would be good for her.
That's a good question.
Great question.
And I think the only way to really test it would be to try another mushroom. And, if you wanted to do something to stabilize mast cell membranes, you would be giving either the Chaga or the reishi, or them combined in the 5 defenders. So I'd probably go to the problem with the 5 defenders is it has a turkey tail in it. So, so I would look to maybe getting, some of the single mushroom species like Chaga. And, Chaga actually, oh, good thought. Actually, Chaga is not a mushroom. So it may be that some of the consideration for what the dog's allergic to is actually more from the mushroom itself. Chaga is mycelium from that fungal organism that grows into the bark of the birch tree, and then the birch tree reacts. So you really have a combination of mycelium, but also the reactive wood, which has those terpenes in it. So I would say check out chaga, see what it does. That would be that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And I also, just on that point, I want to add, because I've had a number of questions about, there's these allergy tests where, people say my dog, the allergy test came up that my dog is allergic to mushrooms, so I can't use these products. And I think one of the challenges with those tests is that they don't differentiate the mushrooms. And also they don't use cooked mushrooms. Often it's raw mushrooms, and there could be very different reactions. So
right.
I'm not saying that the tests aren't accurate. It's just there's a lot of gray in that as well.
And mushrooms contain purines, and there are some dogs like Dalmatians, for instance, and other individuals who have reactions to purines. And so you might even be seeing, a reaction, not necessarily an allergic reaction, but, a reaction to some of the ingredients and constituents that are, in the mushroom.
Yeah.
And so, but, we have recognized, definite allergies to mushrooms. There's even published papers about shiitake allergies in humans, shiitake dermatitis,
Yeah, it can be really painful and itchy. But yeah, I hope that some of these companies that are doing these allergy testing, I think there's a few out there, and I think it's great. It's a great diagnostic tool, but hopefully they're going to start separating the mushrooms out to say, okay, well, the dog has it is showing an allergy to lion's bane, but not maitake, or it's not just mushrooms lumped together. Because it'd be like saying they're allergic to vegetables. Well, there's so many different types of vegetables. So
this person just responded, though, that her dog has Dalmatian in it. So I don't think that we have purines in chaga. So I think that's probably the best place to get started. Yeah. Just use a small amount, because if we don't want a big reaction, if there is one, and let us know. We're really curious about that.
That'd be awesome to hear if she doesn't react to the chaga. And very, very interesting, that Dalmatian connection. Good catch there, Rob.
Yes.
So where are we going next, Britta? What fruits, mushrooms, and veggies are safe and recommended for pregnant dogs? What about after the puppies are born, for nursing moms and the puppies? Are there any that should be avoided?
Boy, good question, but I don't think there are, actually, in that regards. Herbally, we look at herbs that have a downward motion to them, and those are not recommended for pregnancy, because we don't want to have that. We want to keep things up until it's time for birth. But I don't really think you need to worry about that.
Yeah. Of the vegetables, like onions need to be avoided.
And onions, maybe garlic, Well, it depends on how much you give, really, I think. But and onions and garlic both have very similar toxic principles in them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Mary's asking, does it matter if lion's mane or cordyceps are administered in the morning or afternoon for dogs dealing with early dementia symptoms?
Honestly, I'd give it twice daily. I think you should have, good blood levels of the terpenes, and because it's primarily the terpenes in the lion's mane and the cordyceps, although the lion's mane has quite a bit of ergothioneine in it as well, which is also good for that early dementia. But I think, once a day administration is good when we're talking about the beta glucans, because they don't really have the same kind of pharmacological elimination. They're less like drugs than terpenes are. So I would use it twice daily. I think you'll get the best results that way.
Yeah. And I want to report, I just started giving cordyceps to my little dog Scruffy. It's probably the only mushroom that I haven't had her on already.
Mm-hmm.
And I started her on cordyceps. Actually, it was recommended for her noise sensitivity. The connection here with the kidneys and hearing, something like that.
It has a calming influence, even though Even though cordyceps generates energy, it also has a settling effect, as so many mushrooms do.
Yeah. And honestly, that's what I wanted to say is she's been on it for maybe a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And she's much calmer. She is like, she seems happier. And like normally if she's very reactive, like the beeps and stuff that come from my computer, certain tones will just put her through the roof. You know,
Oh,
she'll
wow.
end up, like jumping on my lap and shaking, and sports games like the whistle, stuff like that. And what was it, last night? I was actually watching Ted Lasso again. I watched that series a number of times, and this during the game, there's lots of whistling and stuff, and I noticed that she was still on the bed with me.
Oh.
Normally, she hides during the sports games. So anyway,
maybe it is having some effect. You know.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, my dog has a spleen tumor, and I'm wondering which vegetables are healthier for her. I usually feed her either broccoli, zucchini, and green beans for snacks.
Well, I think all of those are healthy. I would probably say that when you're dealing with cancer, the broccoli is definitely, a very strong cancer fighter. And if you were listening earlier, I think that, raw broccoli is good. But, as we mentioned, steamed broccoli can release some of the the benefits more. And also, what do they do? They kind of just chopped up the flowers. Was that what they were doing, according to Karen and Rodney?
Yeah.
So that would be another technique. But really, I think all those vegetables are fine because they also have all the fiber and all those little phytonutrients which help to feed the microbiome. And ultimately, it's going to be the immune system, of which the microbiome plays an important role in, that is going to help to manage that splenic tumor, which probably should be removed if you're looking at a more long-term outcome.
Well, it's hard to know how old the dog is too.
All those things.
Yeah. Any concern about like the carbs with a dog with hemangio?
Well, it depends what the big picture is as far as what they're doing for the diet, or have they decided to go with the ketogenic diet, and you're thinking about what the carbs in the zucchini and the green beans, I think they're fairly minimal. I mean, I would much prefer to see you get your carbs from your vegetables than from grains, or flour or some other source like that. So, and green beans, they do have beans in general. Legumes do tend to have carbohydrates, but they have so much fiber that it really it turns the carbohydrates into what we call resistant carbs, which are more fiber than having a glycemic index. And so it really depends what the big picture is as far as the diet.
Yeah, and work with your veterinarian to come up with a good diet that works with the plan. Yeah. Brooklyn's saying my 8-year-old cat has been just been diagnosed with struvite crystals. Will cordyceps help?
Well, I would. When it comes to the bladder these days, my recommendation is chaga. And there was a study with bladder cancer that chaga did a good job of, and I've seen others where chaga can help with cystitis infections. The struvite issue is more of a metabolism problem in which the urine winds up, as the body tries to regulate and keep the blood within a certain pH, it dumps either acid or alkaline into the urine, and along with the soup of the minerals that are also being dumped into the urine, depending whether it's acidic or alkaline, struvite crystals will form in an alkaline urine, or oxalate crystals will form in an acidic urine. So really, the real question is, how will the mushroom affect the pH, the acidity or alkalinity, of the urine? Because we can take an animal that has these struvite crystals, and if we give them a urine acidifier, many times those struvite crystals don't form. They dissolve. And crystals are just crystals. You know, and animals will get crystals, and they're not necessarily pathogenic. It's only when the crystals organize themselves into stones, and the stones kind of knock around inside that bladder and create inflammation and bleeding, and maybe leading to secondary infection, that the struvites can be a problem. But early on, if you're just detecting them, then I would look at strategies to alter the pH of the urine. So if you want to use Cordyceps or Chaga, and Cordyceps is good because it does have a benefit to the kidneys, and the bladder is definitely downstream from the kidneys as well. But what I would do is I would put and maybe, given that it's a cat, that Cordyceps is more palatable than the Chaga. So what I would do is start with the Cordyceps. And I don't know if you can measure, if you are measuring the pH of the urine at home, it's something not that hard to do. You can get these little pH strips on Amazon. You want to get them that have a range at around somewhere between 6 and 8, you know, which is really the range that we want the pH to be at. And you can tell if it's more alkaline or more, and you can just, you know, either, you know, if you can catch the stream while the cat's urinating, which isn't very likely, but you can book it.
With that.
Well, you can book it into the into the kitty litter, you know, especially if it's not been highly medicated with things, baking soda, stuff like that, which can alter the response. If the cat's urinating out of the cat box, and it's easy to pee to them. But one technique that I did recommend in practice is, you know, when they urinate, whether it's a male or a female, oftentimes there's a couple drops or two of urine that are caught by the hair around the vulva or around the penis, and that might be the place that you could touch that pH.
The test strip, yeah. No, that's a good tip, and I think it's. I mean, this person knows, Brooklyn knows that it's struvite crystals. It's also important to know there's different treatments for different types of crystals. Sometimes someone will say, my dog has crystals, or my cat, what do I do? But there's going to be a whole different plan depending on what caused the crystal and what it's made up of. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Next question. Here's a big one. When will Daily Dawg be available again? We all want it back. My 15-year-old corgi beagle mix is back to scooting her butt, itching and eyes, discharge again. These had went away or lessened with the Daily Dawg. Yeah, we're really sorry. Combination of switching to a different manufacturer combined with just honestly better than expected sales. It just, I guess everybody wants Daily Dawg right now. So
we have a fix.
Yes, and we are right now. April 15th is the date that we're expecting it. Fingers crossed, but that's still more than 2 weeks away. So, do you want to share the fix or in the meantime, what you can do?
Well, the Daily Dawg and the functional feline are very, very similar. Basically, we took the seaweed out of the functional feline because we didn't want to have problems with hyperthyroidism and the iodine in seaweed. I added some more cordyceps and lion's mane to the Daily Dawg, but everything else is pretty much the same, except that it's labeled for cats. So don't tell your dog although Ollie just waits until the cats walk away and then he goes and licks their bowls. So many dogs might actually like this more because it's for cats, you know.
Well, wasn't it, you just did, I popped into your live with Dr. Ruth Roberts yesterday, and Dr. Roberts was mentioning that her dog wasn't terribly fond of Daily Dawg, but loves the functional feline.
So I don't know why that would be. I guess it must have been maybe that tidal pool kind of seaweed taste.
That's the bladder, right?
Yeah. Although the krill, you know, has very much that same kind of tidal pool sea taste as well. So but anyway, there's a workaround for you.
And it sounds like you still have Daily Dawg on your site. You still have some left.
I have a few.
Okay.
And they'll go fast.
Just called you out on that.
Grab them. Well,
we're sold out. They're sold out on Amazon. They're sold out on our website. I know Dr. Judy had some last week, but I suspect that she sold out because we were sending people over to her site.
Yeah, they'll go fast for sure. But then you can get functional feline
Yeah,
from
and
us.
it'll be back, and
Yeah.
fingers crossed. It's very rare that in fact, I can't remember us being out of stock of anything since I came on board. So it's very rare, and we do apologize to all the dogs that are not getting their daily powder right now. Bruce Wayne is asking, is Chaga the only no or low purine mushroom? One of my chihuahuas now has to eat low purine due to a urate stone.
I think Bruce Wayne's actually the name of the Chihuahua, because they've been corresponding with me through my customer service line too. Yeah, and so Chaga's not a mushroom, and so that's why it doesn't contain purines. But all mushrooms do contain purines, and urate stones, can be quite problematic. They can even form in the kidney as well as in the bladder, and they don't respond as well to pH adjustments. So that's an issue with it. So I would definitely. It's unfortunate, and we do have published levels for purines. We've measured them and we have them available. But I really think that you probably need to just avoid mushrooms in general. So look at chaga, because chaga can provide many of the same benefits and not have the purines in it.
Interesting. Awesome. Next question. I know dogs should eat veggies, but I have ones who will pick out meat from the veg and fruit and only eat the meat and bone. Any suggestions for picky eaters?
Well, I've noticed that there's a lot of photographs of people that are doing home prepared meals, and they're putting everything kind of separately on the plate. And it's lovely, it's pretty.
It looks beautiful.
But it's not going to work. It's not going to work for this kind of an eater. So this is where you may need to chop everything up and blend them together. Or you may need to look at something like making some sort of a bone broth gravy or something that would coat the veggies, especially if they're cut smaller, so that they have the taste of the beef or whatever the meat might be. And then the other thing is, you may want to see, how many veggies your dog will accept. There may be a level that will say, okay, I'm fine with that. And then you exceed it and they go, I'm not going to eat any because there's too many. So getting some in is better than getting none in, even if you're not getting as many in as you'd like to, or have been recommended by whoever may have guided you in the formulation of your diet.
Yeah, I know. So back to my little dog Scruffy again, who's 14. I noticed she's just getting a little more picky about. For the most part, she has a good appetite, but there's sometimes where she just really doesn't want her food. Like, she doesn't want to eat the veggies. But my surefire trick, she loves sardines, and so I take I get the canned sardines and water, but I get the sardine juice, and I put a shark. I use that sardine juice to mask she'll eat anything. She would eat food if it was covered with sardine juice.
Well, I have a trick too that I used to recommend, which would be to take like a can of some fish or something like tuna, let's say, and put it in the blender and add maybe 3 or 4 more cans full, so it's quite dilute. You get a really nice tasting liquid that you can just, that doesn't have an awful lot of the tuna in it because you've diluted it out, but it's got that great taste. And so that may be another way to work around that. But it's the same concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Kathleen's asking, you mentioned reishi mushrooms for autoimmune. Would that apply to systemic lupoid onychodystrophy?
It's something we see in cheetahs, and it's a nail bed autoimmune disease, something that I had with psoriasis. Right. I'm very sensitive, and it's in a case. Hi, Kathleen, because we've also been corresponding. Yes, I think reishi would be one good choice for that. It's a pretty tough condition, and it may need some strong drugs as well. But to control it, and then we could add the reishi on top of that. It's not going to interfere with any of the immune suppressive drugs. And then perhaps we can start, when we get a more resolution as far as reducing the aggressiveness or the forward movement of it, then we may be able to actually taper down those strong drugs, and perhaps the reishi would take its place. For autoimmunes, it's a difficult place to be, and we're not really certain exactly. I mean, it's a very patient specific problem, is what I'm trying to say. And so there's generally not a blanket recommendation. You have to try each patient individually. You have to start low and just gradually introduce these things. With autoimmune disease, something, just because you're introducing something new to the body reacts, because it's already reacting to itself, So I think that it's certainly worth a try, Kathleen.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. My dog's blood work came back normal, except for his ALP and his ALT. Besides giving him SAMI, I imagine 425 milligrams per doctor's orders, along with the supplement. He now gets sweet potato and blueberries. What other veggies would work?
Oh, I think this is also similar to the liver that we were talking about. Beets, beet leaves, burdock root if it's available, artichoke. I think veggies in general are a good idea. The SAMI is certainly one suggestion for that. I personally prefer the use of the silymarin or things like alpha lipoic acid, and then I reach for the SAMI when those are not working and add those to the mix. I had a lot of experience treating liver in my life.
Yeah, and it's the liver seems, you can move those numbers.
Oh yeah, liver. Unlike the kidneys, the liver is very amenable to change. If you catch it before it gets fibrotic and turns to end stage, the liver has a lot of potential for regeneration and renewal.
Yes, absolutely. Should we go to Pam's question?
Brindle?
Yeah. I've missed you guys the last several months. We missed you too, Pam. I want to say that I love Dr. Rob's book.
Oh, thank you.
I gently cook my dog food, so I'm wondering which digestive enzyme you would recommend. Currently using Barks and Whispers, looking to rotate different brands.
Okay. I don't know the brands that are out there. My guidance in general, as far as what to look for, is fungal sourced digestive enzymes. They are the best. They have the highest activity over the widest range of temperatures and pH levels. We have animal-based digestive enzymes, which primarily are dried pancreas extracts, and those can work quite well, especially with protein, but can also be quite costly. We have fruit-based antioxidants, like we find in papaya and papaya mainly, but they're bromelain from pineapple. Have digestive enzyme capabilities, but they are more narrowly restricted in terms of the pH and the temperatures that they operate in. So we extol the virtues of mycelium because of their ability to digest so many things, and that's where these enzymes are derived from the mycelium, primarily of the fungal species Aspergillus niger. So that's what I would look for, and the digestive enzymes have a lot of problems. I designed my own digestive enzyme through RX Vitamins, which I have available on my website. That's a good one. But the Daily Dawg and the Functional Feline also have a very excellent probiotic in them that's yeast based, which means it has total shelf life forever. And there's really good studies in the dog with this probiotic for things such as antibiotic-stimulated diarrhea, leaky gut, IBD, stuff like that.
You're talking about the Saccharomyces boulardii.
Yes, which is fungal derived in the sense that yeast are fungi, but yeast don't have mycelium, so it just comes from the yeast itself. But those are. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a probiotic. I'm blah blah blah. Excuse me, mixing metaphors there. Still, nonetheless, I think that looking at a good quality digestive enzyme, not the RX Biotic, but it's the RX Zyme, which I designed, does have quite a bit of potency. But I don't know the products, and I'm not saying that the Bark and Whiskers is better or worse. I'm just saying look to the ingredients in it, and then look to the levels of potency, and in terms of the units of measurement that they use to tell you how much of a given enzyme is in there. And some products may be more directed to use enzymes that are more likely to digest protein. Some are more likely to digest carbohydrates. We even have some that digest fiber and cellulose and fats. So it may be that for your animal, you need to find one that is more specialized in terms of what the enzymes digest.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob.
Sure.
What do you think about lightly sauteed garlic, coconut oil, and bok choy added to the evening meal? Wow, that just
What kind of
it makes me kind of hungry. When's dinner?
What kind of dinner? That's what I made last night for dinner. Only I used avocado oil instead of coconut oil.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, nothing wrong with that combo, right? Yeah, sounds good.
Bok choy is great. It's a cabbage, so it has that cruciferous kind of value to it.
Yeah. Jody's asking which mushrooms we were talking about to help. I imagine she's meant me talking about scruffy, and it was actually cordyceps, which is I guess that's supportive of stress. But Jody, if you don't know already, Rob formulated a wonderful pet chew called the Relax Chew that the Real Mushrooms makes that is also a really wonderful calming formula. And that's got the lion's mane and the reishi in it. So there are a couple mushrooms that are supportive of calm, lion's mane, reishi, and now I'm discovering for myself the cordyceps as well. I always thought of cordyceps as more of a energizing.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's the adaptogen aspect of cordyceps that really helps to settle things down.
Yeah. And I definitely, again, there's a really good chance I'm just hoping to see a difference. I get that, so I can give it time, but yeah, I was just kind of impressed that she stayed on the bed for Ted Lasso. She always, as soon as that noise and that crowd noise and the whistles start, she's out of the room. She's got a little bed in the closet in the other bedroom that she just goes and kind of hides there. Or I put the earpods in so she doesn't have to listen to it.
That works. Oh, you put your earplugs in you.
I put earpods in me, not in Scruffy.
Okay. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
I put them so that if I think about usually I do, if I know I'm going to be watching something that's kind of noisy, I'll put the earpods in so it doesn't disturb her. But last night I just forgot. And then it was halfway through that I realized that she hadn't had her normal reaction, which was to come up to me shaking and then run off into the closet. So, just a little bit of anecdotal information. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. What do we have? What vegetables are good for my kitty family?
Well, really, any vegetables are fine. You just have
anything you can get in your kitty.
Anything you can feed them.
That's the key.
I would start with the more carbohydrate-laden vegetables. Like squash. Those sorts of things that are blander and easier to go down. I would puree them. And if you can't give the fresh vegetables, look to some of our freeze-dried products that are out there by some of these great companies that we have been supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe time for one more. My 2 Shih Tzus love fresh veggies and eat a lot of them. I wonder what veggies they should not have besides onion and garlic. So we've addressed this, but we can address it again. Anything you think of?
And the garlic's okay.
It's okay.
Onions in a very small amount can be okay as well. You don't have to get too freaked out about that. We were taught early on, in vet school that garlics have this toxic effect on red blood cell membranes and can cause them to cause anemia secondary to the garlic. But those studies were flawed, and they used ridiculously high levels of garlic, in mice. And we do find some animals are sensitive to garlic, but a very, very few of them. And so when I was back in practice, I remember way back when I had a cat parent come in who gave each of his cats a full clove of garlic per day, and it freaked me out because I didn't know different at the time.
Yeah.
So we did blood tests on them all, and they were like all just perfectly normal. He'd been giving this for months or for a year.
Yeah.
I thought, maybe that data is not exactly
something's not right here. Yeah,
because it wasn't just one cat; it was several.
They were all thriving.
Yeah, they were all fine, and that's a whole clove of garlic's quite a bit.
Yeah, probably didn't have many parasites either. So, so that's gosh, we're amazing out of time. I do want to a couple announcements. One being Veggie 25. So anyone, if you didn't hear it earlier, we are offering to anyone who is listening 25% off site-wide on the Real Mushroom site until March 31st. So take a screenshot or write down veggie with an S, veggies 25. And you can get 25% off for your pets, for yourself, for your friends and family until March 31st. And I also, so Rob, you said you're going to be doing a live on your Well Pet Dispensary, and you said it's the last.
Yeah, it'll be the week after this one, also on Thursday, also at the it'll be an hour later. I think we're gonna start an hour later. We're not sure. I'm still trying. We're testing the waters. And so it would start at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
So it's not the same night that we do this one. It's a different Thursday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's a Thursday after each of these. So these are
Got it. Okay.
These are usually the third Thursday of each month. Well, in this case, I think this one's a little bit, maybe the fourth Thursday because I was traveling. Exactly. So this will actually be the first Thursday in May, but in general, it will be the Thursday that's after this one, which also would allow people who had questions that weren't answered or whatever needed to follow up could talk to me there. I can be a little more direct when I'm not representing a large company, when I'm just representing myself as a practitioner.
Okay. And for anybody that's interested in this this live that Rob's going to be doing, as he said earlier, you can go to his website, wellpetdispensary.com, and get information there. Also sign up for the newsletter. It sounds like your newsletter is kind of going to be the place where you keep people updated, correct?
It is the way we do that, although I am also looking to get a podcast going, and so the podcast will also be a way to inform people through that whole marketing approach that we're going to use with that. So yeah.
Awesome.
Watch out. Watch out. I'm on the move.
I don't know how I just half the time I talk to you, I just want to go to bed because I'm so like, how do you do it all?
Espresso. It's the espresso.
Yeah. It's mushrooms. You're mushroom powered, Doc Rob.
That's the espresso, yes.
Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening, and we will be here again next month. Rob will do a 2-4 next month, but yeah, as always, we love your questions and feedback, and I always have a good time with you, Rob. And thanks again, Britta. Veggies 25, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah, thanks, Britta, for everything. We really appreciate your behind the curtain activity.
One day we'll pull her out in front.
We're threatening.
Screaming. Don't worry, Britta. You don't have to. Okay. All righty. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.